Hi, I'm Horace. I'm a semi-retired Singaporean architect cum builder cum project manager. I do not have special medical knowledge. I've never posted a video on YouTube or any other platform. Yet I'm posting a COVID-19 video here. Why, you may ask? Well, I have some contrarian views on the current endemic COVID policy. I've written to the Prime Minister's office, the Ministry of Health, and the Singapore Straits Times, but received no response. I attended a Meet the MP session and talked to several senior minister, but he told me that the government is already set on its endemic COVID policy. I've tried to approach a couple of opposition MPs, but I could not get through. Then I even tried to abandon my ideas altogether because it was getting too tough. But as the COVID cases flared up again in China, Singapore, Hong Kong, Australia, and everywhere, I felt I needed to make one more attempt to save the world. So, for whatever it's worth, here I am. I hope, at least for my work, that you will hear me out, okay? Moving on, let's consider three sets of questions. Firstly, after spending billions of dollars on the COVID pandemic, aren't we back to square one with the current case numbers? Now, I accept that the vaccines have reduced the chances of serious complications and deaths, but the virus continues to affect Singaporeans daily, right? And it has socio-economic consequences. For example, employees report sick, travel plans get derailed, the hospitals remain under pressure, and the vulnerable folks like me get on each day still fearing the virus. Secondly, with modern technology and adequate human and financial resources, isn't it a cop out to accept that we cannot eradicate the virus and must live with endemic COVID? I mean, after spending not millions, not billions, but tens of billions, 72.3 at the last count. That's a lot of money. Are we now saying just give up? What do we have to show for the 70 plus billions we spend? This? Not something that we are to be proud of. Thirdly, we know that the lockdowns can contain transmissions. Do we then give up the getting rid of the virus just because it is socially and economically expedient? Is it responsible to accept living with all the fears and inconveniences and leave a community partially sick perpetually? Now, is there a solution? Yes, I think we can eradicate the COVID virus and it can be done without too much pain. In fact, it is quite simple. Firstly, we get to COVID zero with little pain. Secondly, we maintain COVID zero with sensible controls to stop reinfections from imported cases. Now, of course, the skeptics will ask how we can get to COVID zero with little pain. How can we get to COVID zero without the onerous hardships and costs of the draconian, indiscriminate general lockdowns? They would ask. Do we not see the recent Chinese protests? So let us deal with that first. Dealing with the transmission problem. In the early days, we did not have the means to identify the virus early and prevent it from spreading rapidly, right? Consequently, we used indiscriminate general lockdowns to contain the problem. Bang! It locked up most people and their businesses on account of a limited set of infected individuals. Obviously, that was drastic and was not sustainable for prolonged periods, and certainly not welcomed when repeated, right? Over time, the idea of endemic COVID came along, where we gave up the idea of eradicating the virus and accepted the idea of living with it. Now, in the absence of viable alternatives at that time, it may have been expedient to do so. Today, though, we have antigen rapid tests or rapid antigen tests, as the Australians call it. These offer the following possibilities. We can get people to perform self-tests independently and voluntarily. Two, in combination with directed self-isolation and assisted isolation for serious cases, we can identify and isolate active cases early. Three, if we undertake this with an entire population on a set date, we can quickly identify and isolate all active cases of the day for an entire population. Four, if we further undertake a sequence of several such consecutive test runs on set dates, we can quickly identify and isolate all cases, inclusive of active, incubating, latent, and delinquent cases for the entire population, which essentially means attaining COVID-0. In other words, a structured program of consecutive antigen rapid test runs will get us to COVID-0 without the need for indiscriminate general lockdowns. Only the infected cases will be identified and isolated. The remaining 99.9% of the population and their operations need not be shut down. Hooray! Moreover, this will be achieved by the people themselves, all together and in quick time, which also means that a lot of the hardships and the costs that we cite for indiscriminate general lockdowns are done with. No need for closures, no bankruptcies, no stay homes, no retrenchment, and so on. We get to COVID-0 with little pain. How does it work in detail? Well, we implement a program of sequenced consecutive self-test and self-isolation runs on alternate days. As an example, I suggest a series of 7 consecutive test runs, say on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. This can be shortened or lengthened depending on the needs and the results. During the first run, we will pick up all the positive active cases of the day, and the individuals will be directed to inform the authorities and their close contacts, and they will be directed to isolate themselves, or for serious cases, directed to report for treatment and or quarantine. Now, with subsequent test runs, more cases will be identified and isolated, but at much reduced numbers, because the previous run would have identified cases early and prevented them from transmitting further. Given reasonable adherence to such a program, we should see progressive, sharp daily reductions with each subsequent run, leading to COVID-0 in a matter of weeks. Now, people may point out that the use of voluntary self-tests and self-isolations is not 100% foolproof. Yes, there will be some laggards and outliers for sure, but they will not be entirely consequential, because if they are not infected, they will not matter, or if they are infected, they will fall sick and will be accounted for eventually in subsequent runs. In any case, for now, just imagine we get to COVID-0 without lockdowns of 99% of the people and their businesses. There will be negligible hardships, negligible costs, and nothing for people to protest. COVID zero with little pain is achievable. Well, all that is easier said than done. Such a program has to be designed, planned, and supported with the necessary material, labor, and financial resources, as well as the means and management to motivate and mobilize the participation of the entire population. It requires governmental support, for they have the means and the experience. This is especially so for Singapore, with its track record in creating and implementing campaigns. It will not be difficult. In fact, Singapore already has much of the needed components for such a campaign. Art kits and printed instructions have already been distributed to all households. Motivation and instruction videos have already been made and screened, although they may need to be updated. Task force personnel are already available, but may need to be repurposed. What is missing is only for someone to put it all together into a campaign, for which we need the government to have a reset away from their current endemic COVID policy and take on COVID zero again, but this time smartly, with little pain. We next move on to reinfections. Reaching COVID zero is one thing, keeping it there is another. But it should not be too difficult because by itself, COVID zero already means that the local transmissions of the virus is contained because the virus itself does not exist locally anymore. Therefore, to prevent reinfection, we simply need to prevent imported virus, for which the current rush to remove or lessen travel restrictions on account of tourism is premature and needs to be reversed. Travel from COVID zero travel origins can be quite free, but for non-COVID zero travel origins, effective testing and quarantine regimes need to be re-established and diligently administered. We already have all the procedures and the means to implement effective control for travel from non-COVID zero travel origins. We only need a policy review to reposition back to a safer posture. So, let us all get to COVID zero and then tighten the travel restrictions for non-COVID zero travel origins. That's the answer, right? And it is not too difficult, is it? To conclude here, I have suggested how we can get to COVID zero with little pain. I've also suggested that we can maintain COVID zero with stringent testing and quarantine for travel from non-COVID zero travel origins. Now, if we can achieve both objectives, the pandemic ceases to exist in Singapore. And as we show them to others, more travel origins may choose to adopt a similar approach, and together we can eradicate COVID-19 everywhere. Finally, I'm a nobody and do not have the necessary credentials to move this quest much further. I hope that the better endowed and better qualified amongst you can find merit in my views and suggestions and help to move the agenda further up the ranks of government, be it in Singapore or elsewhere, and maybe even to the World Health Organization. Meanwhile, for the rest of us, you can empathize with what I've put forward. Please click the like button and recommend this video to more friends. For if it can reach credible eyeball numbers, the authorities may take notice too. Thank you for your indulgence. That is, if you're still here. Have a good day and goodbye.